Right now in South Korea, there is a total social meltdown happening over something as simple as a dinner bill, and it is honestly the most hilarious, hypocritical disaster you will see all year. Imagine this. A mother hops onto a popular internet forum absolutely fuming, her keyboard probably smoking from the friction. Why? Because her adult daughter's boyfriend had the absolute audacity to suggest they open a shared bank account to pay for their dates. To this mother, this wasn't a smart financial move or a sign of a modern partnership. No, to her, this was a catastrophic failure of manhood. She actually argued that because this guy wanted to split the cost of movies and pasta, he must be suffering from some kind of hormonal imbalance. She literally blamed environmental chemicals for making young men less masculine. Can you believe the reach on that? It is like complaining that your sandwich is too cold because of global warming while you are standing in a walk-in freezer. This mother represents an entire generation of parents who are watching their princess contract get shredded in real time, and they are absolutely terrified because the old world rules just stopped working. But why would they actually demand this? Why is a shared bank account seen as a declaration of war instead of just common sense? If you look at the raw human drive behind this, it is all about the loss of a high-value exit strategy. For a long time, the unwritten rule was that a woman's time was worth a man's money. It was a patronage system disguised as romance. These daughter moms view their children as assets to be sold to the highest bidder of responsibility. In their minds, a real man is a guy who acts as a financial safety net no matter what. So, when a young man asks for a 50-50 split, he is effectively neutralizing that asset's market value. He's saying, I see you as an equal, but what the mother hears is, I refuse to be your daughter's ATM. And this triggers a massive emotional reaction because it exposes the underlying greed. They want the daughter to be taken care of so the parents can claim a win in the social marketplace. It is a ruthless capitalist game where everything is commodified, and these mothers are realizing their sons-in-law-to-be are no longer interested in buying what they are selling. They want the benefits of the old world, where the man pays for everything, but they also want the freedoms of the new world, where the woman doesn't have to provide anything traditional in return. It is a total I want my cake and I want you to pay for it while I eat it in front of you situation. So, how did we get to this point where society is reacting like the sky is falling over a shared wallet? You have to understand the local vibe here to really grasp the madness. In South Korea, there is this concept of the sucker or the hog. This is the guy who does everything right, works like a dog, pays for every date, buys the luxury bags, and basically functions as a service provider. For decades, men were told that being a hog was the only way to be a real man. But then the world changed. These guys grew up watching their mothers and sisters get the same education and the same high-paying jobs. Then they have to disappear for 2 years of mandatory military service while their female peers are out there starting their careers and building their savings. They come back to the civilian world 2 years behind with zero extra reward, and then they are told they still have to pay for the coffee and the dinner because that is what men do. The math just doesn't work anymore. The younger generation has looked at the spreadsheet and decided that the return on investment for being a provider is a total joke. They are exhausted, they are not weak or chemically altered, they are just bored of being scammed. They have realized that the social currency of being a man has been hyperinflated to the point where it is basically worthless. It doesn't get you respect or a stable home anymore, it just gets you more bills. And what happens when these women actually get exactly what they asked for? What happens when gender equality finally hits the places they didn't want it to touch? This is where the hypocrisy gets really juicy. The same mother who complained about the data count also went on a rant about female officers in the military. She thought it was appalling that a woman in a soldier's uniform should have to carry a heavy box of ramen. Let that sink in for a second. We are constantly told that women are just as capable and strong as men, which they are. But the moment a box gets heavy or a bill comes due, there is this sudden hysterical retreat back to traditional gender roles. It is buffet feminism at its finest. They want to pick and choose the perks of equality, the titles, the salaries, the authority. But they want to leave the burdens behind for the men to handle. They want to be the CEO in the office, but the fragile flower at the restaurant. And when men finally say, okay, if we are equals, then let's act like it, the system starts glitching. The irony is that by pushing for equality in every public sphere, these women have inadvertently taught men how to demand fairness in the one place they wanted to keep private: the wallet and the physical labor. So what is the actual fallout of this little forum drama? It is spreading like a wildfire because it validates everything the global manosphere has been saying for years. This isn't just a Korean thing, it is happening everywhere, from Japan to the States to China. You have guys lying flat or becoming passport bros because they have done the math and realized that the provider contract is a suicide mission. In Korea, they have this brutal metaphor called the dishwashing marriage. The idea is that a man spends his whole life being a good boy, studying hard, getting a great job, and being a nice provider, only to marry a woman who spent her youth having the time of her life with bad boys and now needs a sucker to pay for her lifestyle and wash the dishes of her past. The date account is the young man's way of saying, I am not washing any dishes I didn't use. He is opting out of the scam before it even starts. The internet has destroyed the information monopoly that these daughter moms used to have. In the past, a guy might have felt guilty or thought he was the only one feeling cheated. Now, he can go online and see 1,000 other guys realizing the same thing. The date account is just the first step toward a total decoupling of male labor from female leisure. Can you imagine what the future looks like if this keeps up? It is going to be an absolute farce of mathematical negotiations. We are moving toward a world where love is basically replaced by an audit. Every first date will probably involve a spreadsheet and a credit check. We will have marriage contracts that specify the exact weight of groceries each person is required to lift. The daughter moms of the future will be seen like vendors trying to sell a product that has been obsolete for 20 years. They will keep screaming that men are incels or feminine for wanting to keep their own money. But the more they scream, the faster the men will run. You can't unring the bell of logic. Once a generation of men realizes that responsibility was just a code word for subsidizing someone else's life, they are never going back. The government is already panicking, trying to figure out how to fix the birth rate, maybe even thinking about taxing single people. But they don't realize that you cannot force a man to be a hogo once he has seen how the magic trick works. At the end of the day, it all comes down to a very simple metaphor. For a long time, men were treated like vending machines. You put in a little bit of girlfriend status or a smile, and you expected a constant stream of money, protection, and labor to come out. When this guy with the date account showed up, he was like a vending machine that suddenly demanded you also put in a coin before it gave you any snacks. The mother is screaming and kicking the machine because she remembers a time when the machines were broken, and gave out free snacks if you just patted them on the head and told them they were strong and manly. But the machines aren't broken anymore. They have installed a security system. They have realized they are actually banks, and they are tired of handing out bad loans with no collateral. The daughter mom thinks the men have changed for the worse, but the reality is that the currency has changed. Being a real man is no longer a coin that can buy a woman's responsibility. The young men of today have finally learned the most important word in any relationship: no. They are looking at the deal on the table and realizing it is a one-sided contract with no exit clause, and they are simply walking away. Is it cynical? Maybe. Is it ironic? Absolutely. But it is the logical conclusion of a society that tried to have its cake and eat it too. You cannot demand total equality in the boardroom and then demand a total provider in the bedroom. You cannot wear the uniform of a soldier and then cry when you have to carry the boxes. The logical man has arrived, and he is bringing a calculator to the date. He isn't angry, he isn't hateful, he is just done being the sucker. So, next time you hear a story about a guy wanting to split the bill, don't think of it as a lack of masculinity. Think of it as a man finally realizing his own value and refusing to be the dishwasher for a meal he didn't even get to enjoy. The Hogue era is officially over, and honestly, can you blame them? It was a long time coming, and the only people who are truly upset about it are the ones who are getting a free ride for way too long. It is a new world, and in this world, if you want the pasta, you better be ready to pay for your half. Fuel the truth at Dating in Korea. Support the structure. Stay safe in the lounge.